Hey, my dear friends, good evening. Welcome to the next fabulous session of our biology short series of 90 plus my tuition. And today we are moving on to the discussion of one most important question from the chapter number 5, that is life process. Are you ready for the discussion of that question? I know you are eagerly waited for conducting this session, and here is your 90 plus short next question from the chapter number 5, that is life processes. So here is the diagram, and they mention some parts are using 1 2 3 4 numbers, and we need to discuss the question. Here is the question respective to that diagram, and the question is, the first part, A part, is which chamber of the heart, that means 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, pumps blood to the lungs for oxygenation, and name it. And the sub part of that question to A is identify and name the blood vessel that carry blood to the lungs. Okay, it's very simple. And the second subdivision is second part, or B part, is identify the structure at the number 12 and state its function. And the C part is why do chambers 6 and 7 have thicker muscular walls than chambers 8 and 9, and name each of those chambers. And we also got one internal or question or internal choice. In that, they mentioned the first question as identify and name the chambers that receives oxygen rich blood and name the blood vessels which bring it. Okay, that's fine. And next subdivision is state the significance of the separation of the right and left side of the heart as seen in the above figure. Did you get anything? Did you get anything? So this question is for 5 marks, and we need to discuss, or we need to look into that structure of the heart of the labeled diagram. It's not labeled, just mentioned with numbers. Okay, and first I will give you idea regarding all the parts of the cardiac vascular circulatory system or double circulatory system in human beings. And first we know that the first part mentioned is the vena cava from the upper part of the body, that means superior vena cava. It forms the major vein, and the 13th one is the major vein or vena cava from the lower part of the body, and the name is inferior vena cava. Okay, they didn't mention about the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava term, but they mentioned it as the vena cava from the upper part of the body as well as the vena cava from the lower part of the body respectively. So you can follow that name since the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava hasn't mentioned in our textbook. And from the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava, they transmit or they transport the deoxygenated blood from the different parts of the body, and that will transported or transfused into the part 9, that is right atrium, and the part 7 is the right ventricle. In between the right atrium and right ventricle, you will be able to see valve, and the specific name of that valve 12th is tricuspid valve. Okay, and since the tricuspid valve and the name of the valve hasn't mentioned in your textbook, you can follow the term like valve. Okay, in your examination that would be fine. And from the right ventricle, the deoxygenated blood will be passed into the from the right atrium, the deoxygenated blood will be passed into right ventricle. We know right ventricle by the opening of tricuspid valve, and finally this deoxygenated blood will be carried by our the second portion, and here is pulmonary artery. And before moving on to the pulmonary artery, you will be able to see another valve like structure, and this is also another valve, and which also regulate the opening and closing of this valve. And the specific name of this valve is pulmonary valve. That means by the opening of the pulmonary valve, the deoxygenated blood will be transported into pulmonary artery. And you know the specific and exception condition of the pulmonary artery. What is that? Every artery which carries oxygenated blood except the pulmonary artery. This pulmonary artery always carries deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle into the lungs for oxygenation, and after the oxygenation in the lungs, the deoxygenated blood will be converted into oxygenated blood, and this oxygenated blood will be carried by another vein which is called pulmonary vein. You know the exceptional condition of this pulmonary vein as well. What is the exceptional condition regarding the pulmonary vein? All the vein carries deoxygenated blood except the pulmonary vein. Pulmonary vein always carries oxygenated blood from the lungs into the the left atrium. So here is the eighth structure, that is left atrium, and after the left atrium, in between the left atrium and left ventricle, there is another valve is placed, and the specific name to this valve is bicuspid or mitral valve, and followed by the oxygenated blood from this left atrium will be passed into left ventricle by the opening of valve. The name of the valve is bicuspid or mitral valve, and when the oxygenated blood reaches into left ventricle, which passed into aorta, aorta is a major artery, and by the opening of another valve, and the name of the valve is aortic valve. Here is an aortic valve. When the yes, 1 minute. After the contraction of the ventricle, this left ventricle specifically transport oxygenated blood into our aorta, which is a major artery, by the opening of another valve which is located, and the valve name is aortic valve. And finally, our oxygenated blood will be transported into major artery, which is aorta, and aorta carry this oxygenated blood, and that will transport all this oxygenated blood into different parts of the body, and this aorta finally divides into arteries and arterioles divides into capillaries, and capillaries will transport, because in each cell and each of the body and each of the body tissue and each of the blood cells or each of any of the cells to which this aorta major artery transport or transfuse the oxygenated blood, and for that aorta divide into arteries, and artery carries this oxygenated blood, and arteries finally divide into arterioles which also carries oxygenated blood, and arteries divide into capillaries, and capillaries exchange a gas material, exchange them gases like carbon dioxide and oxygen, and which gives the oxygen into the tissues. At the same time, capillaries collect the carbon dioxide from the tissues, which produce as a metabolic waste product, and this carbon dioxide will be carried by the same capillaries, and capillaries divides to form venules, and venule divides to form our veins, and veins divides to form our major veins, which include superior vena cava and inferior vena cava, which transport this deoxygenated blood or carbon dioxide rich blood finally into right atrium of the heart. That means simply we complete the double circulatory system in human beings, and we already studied all the parts of double circulatory system in human beings. Now we can directly move on to this question. The first question is, which chamber of the heart out of 6, 7, 8 or 9 pumps blood to the lungs for oxygenation? Name it, identify and name the blood vessels that carry blood to the lungs. Okay, here is the answer. The chamber of the heart pumps blood to the lungs for oxygenation is chamber number 7 out of 6, 7, 8, 9, and the chamber number 7 is the right ventricle, and the blood vessel that carries this deoxygenated blood to the lungs are the number 2, and here is pulmonary artery. And we can move on to the next question. Yeah, we solved the first question. Now we are moving on to the next question. The B part of the question is, identify the structure at the number 12 and state its function. And yeah, I will show you that question again. Identify the structure 12, and we know that was valve. Okay, and here is the answer, the number 12, that is valves, and especially the number 12 representing tricuspid valve, and you can also mention it as a valves. You will get marks. And the major peculiarity of the function of this number 12 or valves are, they ensure the blood does not flow backwards when atria and ventricle contract. Now we complete the first part and second part, and now we are moving on to the C part, and we need to look into the C part question. Yes, the C part question is, why do chambers 6 and 7 have thicker muscular valves than chamber 8 and 9? Name each of these chambers. Okay, we can look into that. Okay, chamber 9 is, what do you mean by chamber 9? The name of the chamber 9 is right atrium, and name of the chamber 7 is right ventricle, and name of the chamber 8 is left atrium, and name of the chamber 6 is left ventricle. And they are saying that 7 and 6, why 7 and 6 chambers are always having thick muscular valve than this 9 and 8. And we know the point. We know the point. Why? Because left and right ventricle. 6 represent left ventricle and right 7 represent right ventricle respectively. And ventricles have thicker walls or when they are comparing to the atria. Okay, the 8 represent left atria while the 9 represent the right atrium. What is the need of the thicker valves in the ventricles than we compare to the atrium? Here are the 2 points. The first point is ventricle had to pump blood out of the heart and to every cell, tissues and organs of our body, and they pump blood at a higher pressure to ensure it reach all the parts of the body. So because of these two functionality and the ventricles, if it is left or right, they have thicker valves as compared to left and right atria. Okay, and now we just completed the first question. Now we are moving on to the odd question, and we need to discuss about the odd question. What is odd question? Okay, the odd question. Here is odd question. Identify and name the chamber that receives oxygen-rich blood, and name the blood vessels which bring it. We know. Identify and name the chamber that receives oxygen-rich blood. Obviously, that is left atrium. Yeah, the 8th one, that is left atrium, and the blood, oxygenated blood to the left atrium, which is carried by the structure 2, and which is that it is, sorry, it's not structure 2. Yeah, structure 3. Structure 3, and the name of the structure 3 is, we know, that is pulmonary vein. Okay, we answered it. Yeah. The chamber that receives oxygen-rich blood is the chamber 8. Sorry, it's not chamber 8. Number 8, that is left atrium, as I mentioned. And blood vessel which bring oxygen-rich blood into the left atrium from the lungs is the structure, the number 3, that is pulmonary vein. Now we are moving on to the last part of this question or question. Here is, state the significance of the separation of the right and left side of the heart as seen in the above figure. And we know that point. I already taught you the separation of right and left side of the heart is useful to prevent the mixing of oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood. Okay, what is the need of that? Because such separation allows a highly efficient supply of oxygen to all parts of the body and even to all cells of the body. That is the first point. And next point is that the separation is highly useful in animals that have high energy needs, such as class aves and class mammals. That means birds and mammals respectively, which constantly use energy to maintain their body temperature. So we completed this question. Now I will show you the, sir, yeah. Now I will show you the highlighted portion of the textbook for the respective answers. You can take the screenshot along with me. I will pause for a while. Okay, yeah. Take the screenshot. And you can take the screenshot of this highlighted portions as well. Here now we just finished the most toughest question from the transportation category of our chapter number 5, that is life processes. So stay tuned with your biology tutor, that is Paul Thomas, and 90 plus my tuition, all the faculties, and every faculties are ready for discussing all such kind of possible sure short series or questions for your upcoming 2024 examination of CBSE 10th grade. And until we meet you again, gotta hit the sack by ideas.